I pull into the familiar driveway, tires crunching over fallen leaves that carpet my parents' century-old oak-lined path. Golden autumn light streams through the branches, painting dappled patterns across my windshield. The apple pie rests on my passenger seat, still warm, its cinnamon and nutmeg scent filling my car with memories. This drive to Cedar Falls, I've made it hundreds of times. But today feels different. Something hangs in the air, or maybe it's just my accountant's brain overthinking again. My mother's voice on the phone last night carried that forced cheerfulness that never quite reaches her eyes when I see her in person. Thanksgiving at 2. Don't forget the pie, she'd said, as if I'd forgotten in 35 years. I gather the pie in one hand, my purse in the other, and make my way up the worn brick path. The front door opens before I reach it. Dad stands there, arms crossed over his chest, his usual welcoming smile nowhere to be found. Dad. The word comes out smaller than I intend. His jaw tightens. Taryn. Just my name. No hug. No, how is the drive? I step into the foyer, the familiar scent of furniture polish and holiday cooking wrapping around me even as my father's coldness pushes me away. Return the $62,000 you took from your mother, or don't come back. The words hang in the air between us. My fingers loosen around the pie plate. For a horrifying second, I think I might drop it. What? I manage to whisper. You heard me. His voice never rises, which somehow makes it worse. We know what you did. I look past him into the living room. Mom sits perched on the edge of the sofa, staring down at her folded hands. Her shoulders curl inward, making her look smaller than her 5'4" frame. She doesn't look up. Marla stands by the fireplace, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. The calculated precision of her movements betrays the performance. My sister has never shed a genuine tear in her life without an audience. Corbin leans against the far wall, his face a mask of disappointment that doesn't quite reach his eyes. He looks satisfied, like he's watching the final scene of a play he's been rehearsing for weeks. I don't understand, I say, my voice steadier now. The initial shock gives way to confusion, then a slow-burning spark of anger. What money? Your mother's retirement account. Dad steps closer. 5 weeks ago. 3 separate withdrawals. All after you set up her online banking. The memory flashes in my mind. Mom at her kitchen table, peering through reading glasses as I showed her how to check her balance online. Her trust as I patiently explained digital statements. The yellow sticky note where she wrote her password, which she tucked into the unlocked kitchen drawer despite my warnings. I never took any money. My voice sounds distant to my own ears. The transfers started the day after you set up her account. Dad's words slice through the air. $62,000. Gone. No one speaks in my defense. Not Mom, who I've called every Sunday for 15 years without fail. Not Marla, who I helped move 4 times when her relationships imploded. Not Corbin, whose college tuition I helped pay when Dad lost his job. A unified front against me. I step toward the kitchen, my movements deliberate. The pie feels heavier with each step. I place it carefully on the counter next to Mom's collection of ceramic roosters. My hands tremble slightly, but I refuse to let them see. I didn't take your money. Each word precise and measured. Then how do you explain the withdrawals? Dad demands. I don't, not yet. My forensic accountant's mind is already cataloging questions, inconsistencies, data points to investigate. But I won't defend myself while they stand in judgment, having already decided my guilt. I turn toward the door, my spine straightening with each step. My car keys dig into my palm as I clutch them, the pain a welcome distraction from the betrayal crushing my chest. At the doorway, I pause. I look back at my family's tableau. Dad's rigid posture, Mom's averted gaze, Marla's performative grief, Corbin's satisfied smirk. When you're ready to ask me what happened instead of accusing me, you know my number. The door closes behind me with a soft click that echoes with finality. In my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, I finally allow myself to breathe. The full weight of what just happened presses against my ribs. My own parents believe I stole from them. As I back out of the driveway, the sun catches the living room window. For a brief moment, I see my mother's face watching me leave, her expression unreadable through the glare. The memory of us just 5 weeks ago surfaces again. Her kitchen bathed in afternoon light, her trust as I guided her through the unfamiliar digital banking world, her gratitude as she mastered each step. "You've always been so good with numbers," she'd said, squeezing my hand. "I don't know what I'd do without you." The words that once warmed me now curdle in my stomach. What happened in those 5 weeks to shatter 35 years of trust? I turn onto the main road, leaving behind the house where I grew up, the family who just broke my heart, and the apple pie that will grow cold on the counter. Someone has stolen more than money today, and I intend to find out who. Later that night, the best Western sign flickers in the growing twilight, casting alternating shadows across my dashboard. Room 118. Ground floor. Far end. Perfect. No one to hear me if I finally break down. I will my overnight bag, always packed in the trunk for client emergencies, across the cracked asphalt. The motel office smells of pine-scented cleaner and microwave popcorn. The clerk barely glances up from her paperback romance novel. "Just you tonight?" She stamps my registration card. "Just me." The words catch in my throat. My room greets me with industrial beige carpeting and a bedspread in faded harvest gold that hasn't been updated since the Reagan administration. A plastic wreath hangs crookedly on the bathroom door, its tinsel garland shedding silver flecks onto the carpet. I set my bag on the luggage rack and stand motionless in the center of the room. The heater clicks on, blasting stale air that stirs the curtains. Outside, a family unloads presents from their SUV, laughter floating through the thin walls. The composure I've maintained since leaving my parents' house begins to crack. My breath comes in short, shallow bursts. I press my palms against my eyes until stars appear in the darkness. $62,000. I say the words aloud, testing their weight. The accusation hangs in the air, absurd and cutting. I sink onto the edge of the bed. For 30 minutes, I simply breathe, staring at the wall where someone has thumbtacked a print of autumn leaves over a water stain. My mind catalogs each moment from the confrontation, storing details like evidence tags. Dad's certainty, Mom's avoidance, Marla's performance, Corbin's satisfaction. Something doesn't add up. I grab a notepad from the nightstand and begin to write, my accountant's precision taking over. Transaction dates, account access points, my timeline with my mother at the bank. Who else had access? What records would exist? The fog of betrayal lifts slightly as I scrawl names and questions. By midnight, the pad contains a roadmap of investigation, with arrows connecting possibilities. 3 withdrawals. 5 weeks. $62,000. My professional training snaps into focus. I am no longer just a wounded daughter. I am a forensic accountant with 15 years of experience uncovering financial deceptions. The alarm buzzes at 6 a.m. I've slept in my clothes, notepad still clutched in my hand. The morning light reveals fresh determination in my reflection. I smooth my rumpled blouse and dial my firm. James Riley's office. "Melissa, it's Taryn Dunham. I need to speak with James urgently." 3 minutes later, my manager's voice comes through the line. "Taryn, I thought you were taking holiday time." "Family emergency." I keep my voice steady. "James, I need a professional favor. A significant one." The silence stretches before he answers. "What kind of favor?" "I need to access some banking records. And I'd like to work with Sarah from Fraud Investigation, Sarah Winters." His voice sharpens with curiosity. "Taryn, what's this about?" "Someone stole $62,000 from my mother's retirement account. My family believes it was me." Another pause. "Jesus, Taryn. I need to clear my name. More importantly, I need to find out who actually did this. You understand. There are protocols. I've never asked for special treatment in 9 years with the firm. I'm asking now." By noon, Sarah Winters and I are reviewing digital records from Pineway Mutual Bank at the office. Her reputation for ruthless precision is well-earned as she navigates the permission protocols with surgical efficiency. First transaction was November 1st, 20,000. Sarah points to the screen. In-person withdrawal, not digital. That can't be right. I set up her online banking on October 28th. Sarah scrolls through the records. Second withdrawal, November 8th, 15,000. Third, November 15th, 27,000. All in person with signature verification. My stomach tightens. Can we access the signature cards? The bank manager, a balding man named Harris with nervous hands, slides the signature comparisons across his desk. Miss Dunham, normally this would require a warrant, but considering your professional standing and the unusual circumstances, the signatures aren't mine. They aren't even good forgeries of mine. Security footage? I ask. Harris hesitates. We only keep 30 days. That's all we need. Sarah's tone brooks no argument. The footage appears on his monitor. First transaction, a woman in oversized sunglasses at the teller window, dark hair pulled back. Marla's distinctive gesture of tucking hair behind her right ear. Second transaction, the same woman, different blouse. Third transaction, Corbin. No disguise. Casual confidence as he signs the withdrawal slip. Stop. My voice sounds strange to my own ears. Enlarge that frame. The image pixelates, but remains clear enough. My brother withdrawing money from our mother's account. The date stamp matches perfectly. First online login, Sarah murmurs, checking her tablet. October 29th at 8:42 p.m. IP address matches your parents' home Wi-Fi. The truth solidifies in the air between us. My sibling stole from our mother and framed me for it. Sarah's hand touches my shoulder briefly. Taryn, I'll document everything. The evidence is clear. I nod, unable to speak. On my way out, I called Douglas Hammond, our family attorney, since I was in pigtails. His gravelly voice warms when he recognizes me. Taryn, how's my favorite number cruncher? Not good, Doug. I need your help with something difficult. Back at the motel, I arrange the evidence in a black presentation folder. Bank statements, transaction records, security footage stills, signature comparisons. The pieces of betrayal organized with professional precision. In the bathroom mirror, I study my reflection as I button a fresh blouse. My eyes are clearer now, focused. I straighten my shoulders and practice what I'll say when I face my family again. Before leaving, I remove my credit cards from my wallet and lock them in the room safe. This confrontation isn't about money. It never was. It's about truth. And I'm bringing it home. A week later, I arrive at my childhood home unannounced, parking across the street rather than in the driveway. The golden afternoon sun stretches my shadow long across the familiar brick path. This visit carries none of the warmth of Thanksgiving, only the weight of truth in the black presentation folder tucked under my arm. The wooden steps of the porch creak in the same spots they have since I was 10. My knuckles rap against the door with the confidence of someone who no longer needs permission to enter this space. Mom opens the door, surprise flashing across her face. Her hand flies to her throat, fingers trembling against the collar of her floral blouse. Taryn, her voice catches. I didn't expect. We need to talk. I step past her into the foyer without waiting for an invitation. The scent of lemon furniture polish and cinnamon potpourri wraps around me, the smell of home now tainted with betrayal. Mom follows, her slippers whispering against the hardwood. Your father isn't here. He's at the hardware store. Good. Call Marla and Corbin. I place the folder on the kitchen island, the black leather stark against the beige granite. Family meeting. Now. Her eyes dart to the folder, then back to my face. What is this about? The $62,000. Mom's cheeks flush pink as she reaches for her phone. Her fingers hover over the screen. Are you sure this is necessary? Absolutely certain. While she texts my siblings, I set up my laptop on the dining room table. The projector I borrowed from work comes to life, casting a white rectangle on the wall where family photos once hung. The empty nail holes stare back at me like accusatory eyes. 20 minutes pass before the front door opens. Marla enters first, her designer purse swinging from her elbow. The confidence in her stride falters when she sees me. What's she doing here? Marla asks Mom, as if I'm not standing 5 feet away. Corbin follows, hands shoved in his pockets. His casual posture doesn't match the wariness in his eyes. Have a seat. I gesture to the kitchen island. All of you. They exchange glances but comply, gathering around the counter like strangers at a bus stop, connected by circumstance but maintaining careful distance. I open the folder with steady hands. The bank statement. I pull into the familiar driveway, tires crunching over fallen leaves that carpet my parents' century-old oak-lined path. Golden autumn light streams through the branches, painting dappled patterns across my windshield. The apple pie rests on my passenger seat, still warm, its cinnamon and nutmeg scent filling my car with memories. This drive to Cedar Falls, I've made it hundreds of times. But today feels different. Something hangs in the air, or maybe it's just my accountant's brain overthinking again. My mother's voice on the phone last night carried that forced cheerfulness that never quite reaches her eyes when I see her in person. Thanksgiving at 2. Don't forget the pie, she'd said, as if I'd forgotten in 35 years. I gather the pie in one hand, my purse in the other, and make my way up the worn brick path. I moved to my computer and selected the first photograph. The dining room wall displayed a freeze frame from surveillance video. Marla standing at the bank counter, large sunglasses resting atop her head, completing a withdrawal form. The timestamp corresponded to the initial transaction. The room fell silent. Another click revealed a second image. Marla at the identical banking location, wearing different clothes, 48 hours later. The next click showed Corbin grinning at another teller, his name signed smoothly across the withdrawal document for the last $22,000. An absolute quiet descended over the room, broken only by the refrigerator's soft humming. Mother's complexion went pale as she glanced between the wall display and her youngest children. "You were responsible for this?" Her words emerged as barely audible whispers. Marla's eyes welled with moisture. Real tears flowed this time, though her jaw remained set with stubborn resistance. "You provided her with your online banking credentials. She demonstrated how to monitor account balances. Did she inform you that she earns 6 figures while I struggle to pay my rent?" "That doesn't justify stealing from your mother," I stated. "I prefer borrowed," Corbin interjected, reclining in his seat with manufactured nonchalance. "We intended to return it. Using what funds?" The inquiry lingered unanswered. Marla's tears overflowed. "You receive everything, Taryn. The excellent marks, the prestigious position, Mom and Dad's endorsement. I simply wanted to even things out. You didn't balance anything. You destroyed it completely." My statement pierced through her justifications, and you allowed them to suspect I was the culprit. Corbin lifted his shoulders dismissively. "She earns more than the rest of us put together. She'll recover." His casual dismissal triggered something primitive within me. I pressed my hands against the cold granite surface to prevent trembling. That money represented Mom's retirement savings, not mine. Not yours. Mother rose abruptly, her chair scraping across the floor. "You let me believe my own daughter had stolen from me." She looked at Marla and Corbin, then faced me with dawning realization in her expression, and I never even questioned whether it was accurate. The front entrance opened and Dad entered the kitchen, holding a paper sack from Miller's hardware store. He stopped short at the scene confronting him. The banking records, the projection of Marla and Corbin on the wall, Mother's tears. "What's occurring here?" His voice lacked the commanding tone it held during Thanksgiving. "The truth," I replied, closing the folder with careful precision. "Your children took money from Mom's retirement fund, and I possess proof." Dad's gaze moved from the folder to the wall, where Corbin's face continued smiling from the bank security footage. The hardware store bag dropped from his grasp, creating a metallic crash. "Is this accurate?" he inquired, though his question wasn't aimed at me. Marla dried her tears with her hands back. "We plan to repay it." "With what resources?" Mom asked, her voice gaining strength. "The money you lack from the employment you can't maintain." Dad collapsed into a chair, his certainty cracking like aged plaster. I stood straighter amid the wreckage of family confidence, my professional composure maintained despite the emotional storm surrounding me. "I've consulted with Douglas Hammond regarding our options." "You're filing charges," Marla's voice elevated with fear, "against your own family." "I'm not filing anything," I replied, my calmness surprising even myself. "The documentation has been recorded with the family lawyer. What occurs next is between you, Mom, and Dad." I disconnected the projector and shut my laptop. The wall returned to blank white, empty of both evidence and family photographs. "Dad," I faced him, meeting his gaze directly for the first time since Thanksgiving. "You instructed me not to return unless I brought back the money." My posture straightened with each word. "I didn't steal the money, but I've delivered the truth." I walked toward the exit, my footsteps echoing in the quiet. No one attempted to stop me. No one spoke. On the front steps, I paused to inhale the late afternoon air. Behind me, through the partially open door, I heard Mom's voice rise with unprecedented clarity. "How could you betray your sister this way?" "Betray me?" I didn't linger for their response. Some questions no longer concerned me. That evening, arriving home, my apartment welcomed me with silence as I removed my shoes inside the entrance. The clean geometry of my minimalist furnishings contrasted sharply with my childhood home's overstuffed seating and decades of collected decorations. Here, everything served a function and occupied its proper place, including myself. I ran my fingers along the spotless kitchen counter. No ceramic chickens observing my actions. No lingering fragrance of cinnamon and apples. My throat constricted as I poured water, the gentle sound of liquid against glass the only noise in the space. The edge of a manila folder protruded from my briefcase. I no longer required the folder that had altered everything. I placed it in my desk drawer beside the organized tax papers and investment records. Systematic, controlled, unlike the chaos I'd left behind in Cedar Falls. Monday brought welcome routine at the office. My coworkers acknowledged me respectfully as I passed their offices. Sarah Winters visited my door with coffee. "I understand you solved that Pineway Bank investigation," she said, setting a steaming cup on my desk. "Excellent work." She remained unaware the victims were my parents. Unaware the perpetrators were my siblings. Here, I was simply Taryn Durham, the accountant who followed money through deception's maze and brought order to confusion. "Thank you," I said, wrapping my hands around the warm ceramic. "Just following the trail. Numbers don't lie. People do." My phone buzzed. Jennifer, my cousin on Dad's side. I allowed it to reach voicemail. Later, alone in the break room, I listened to her cautious message. "Just reaching out. Your mother mentioned you might skip Christmas this year. Marla relocated to Denver. Corbin is staying with friends. I thought perhaps we could have lunch when I'm in Minneapolis next month." The consequences spread outward, families splitting along existing fault lines, awaiting pressure to fracture them completely. I erased the message. That night, I remained late at the office. The cleaning crew recognized me by now. Rosa shared half her homemade tamales, wrapped in foil and still warm. I accepted with gratitude that surprised us both. "Family recipe," she said proudly. "My grandmother taught my mother. My mother taught me." I nodded, not trusting my voice. Some family traditions deserve preservation. Others, like suspicion and baseless accusations, should end with this generation. The envelope arrived Thursday, cream-colored paper with Mother's distinctive handwriting across the front. I held it, sensing the weight of its contents. My address was written with the careful precision she reserved for important correspondence. No return address, though I knew its origin exactly. The envelope remained unopened on my coffee table through dinner, the evening news, and the single glass of wine I permitted myself on weeknights. Finally, approaching midnight, I slipped my finger under the seal. Inside lay a photograph, the three of us at Lake Okoboji, summer of 1998. Marla's hair in braids, Corbin missing his front teeth, me with sunburned shoulders and a serious expression as I examined the canoe paddle. This was before college expenses and career decisions, before retirement funds and betrayal. On the reverse, in Mother's careful script, "We didn't understand how much we'd miss you until you were absent." I placed the photograph face down on my desk. Tears came then, quiet but steady, not for what I'd lost, but for what had never truly existed. Saturday morning, I addressed 15 strangers in a fluorescent-lit community college classroom. My presentation slide read, "Financial protection for elderly adults." Elder financial abuse frequently originates from those closest to the victim, I told them, my voice unwavering. Family members comprise 57% of perpetrators. I didn't mention becoming part of that statistic. I didn't explain how Mother's trust was weaponized, how my siblings' resentment evolved into theft. These people sought protection, not confession. An elderly woman approached after class, her silver hair perfectly styled, her purse held close. "I wish I had a daughter like you," she said, her eyes warm with sincerity. "Someone who comprehends these matters." "So did my mother," I replied, shaking her hand warmly. "The crucial thing is asking questions. Trust, but verify." Returning home, I removed the family photograph that had hung on my wall since moving in. In its place, I displayed my accounting license and fraud investigator certification, the glass frames catching afternoon light. Family should be the sanctuary where acceptance comes without proving worthiness, where trust is freely given, not continually earned. I traced the embossed letters of my name on the certificate. Some connections remain intact, the ones I've forged with myself. A year later, fallen leaves crunched beneath my boots as I walked home from the community center. The sun hung low in November's sky, painting Minneapolis in amber tones reminiscent of Cedar Falls this time last year. My hands still carried the scent of turkey and cranberry sauce from 4 hours of serving meals to strangers who'd become something more. "You returning next week, Taryn?" George had asked as I untied my apron, his weathered face brightening when I nodded. "Wouldn't miss it," I'd responded, meaning every word. A year since the confrontation. A year of reconstructing life, without family scaffolding. The emptiness stung less now, gradually filled with new connections. George at the community kitchen, my Thursday night students, Sarah from work who'd evolved from colleague to friend through countless coffee conversations. I turned onto my street and stopped. A figure sat hunched on the bench outside my building. Something about those shoulders slope froze me mid-step.
"Mom."
She hadn't noticed me yet, her attention fixed on an aluminum foil-covered plate balanced on her lap. Even from this distance, I recognized her pie dish's crimped edges. My stomach clenched. I could retreat, walk another block, give myself preparation time. But I'd spent 6 months standing firm in truth. I wouldn't begin hiding now. Her head lifted as I approached, street lights revealing new lines around her eyes, fresh gray threading her hair. She appeared smaller somehow, diminished, as if consequences' weight had compressed her. "Taryn." Her voice cracked on my name. "Mom." Mine remained steady. Silence stretched between us, tangled with unspoken words. Wind gusted, scattering dead leaves across the pavement. "I made your favorite," she said, lifting the pie slightly. "Apple with extra cinnamon. Just like the untouched pie on last Thanksgiving's counter while my family accused me of theft." The parallel wasn't lost on me. "Would you like to come up?" I asked, keys already in hand. Not forgiveness, but not rejection either. Her relief was obvious. Yes. My apartment felt smaller with her presence. She stood uncertainly in the entryway, absorbing the space where she'd never been welcomed before. Her gaze lingered on my bookshelf, accounting texts mixed with mysteries, then drifted to the wall where my professional certifications hung, where family photos might have been. "It's lovely," she offered. "Very you." I took the pie, placing it on the kitchen counter untouched. "Yeah." She nodded, perching on my sofa's edge, as if afraid to settle completely. Minutes later, we sat across from each other, steaming mugs between us. The pie remained on the counter, a symbol neither was ready to cut. "I owe you an apology," she began, her fingers twisting in her lap. "I should have inquired. You should have trusted me." I didn't hurry to ease her discomfort. "Yes, I should have." Her eyes filled. I've considered it daily, how quickly I believed the worst, how I sat there silently while Gerald accused you. "Dad." I corrected automatically. "Gerald," she repeated firmly. "He moved out 3 months ago." The news landed like a stone in still water. "What happened?" "Everything collapsed after you left," she said, sipping her tea and wincing at the heat. "Marla went to Denver, won't answer my calls. Corbin." She paused. "The bank pressed charges. We discovered other things he'd done. Money from his workplace, loans in your father's name." Each revelation should have satisfied some part of me that craved vindication. Instead, they felt heavy. "And Gerald couldn't accept his responsibility," she continued. "He kept saying if you'd just explained yourself that day instead of leaving." I shouldn't have needed to explain myself. The words emerged sharper than intended. "No," She agreed surprisingly. You shouldn't have. That's what my therapist helped me understand. You're seeing a therapist? Twice weekly since February. A shadow of a smile touched her lips. She says I spent 40 years allowing your father to determine what was true. Learning to trust my own judgment has been challenging. I studied her. This woman I thought I knew. The mother who taught me to bake, balance checkbooks, stand up for myself, yet who hadn't stood up for me when it mattered most. If we're going to have any relationship moving forward, I said carefully, I need complete honesty. No manipulación. Respect for my boundaries, professional and personal. She nodded, never breaking eye contact. I'm not promising forgiveness. Not yet. My voice remained level. Trust rebuilds slowly, if at all. I understand, she said, reaching for her tea, her wedding ring conspicuously absent. I'm not asking for what I haven't earned. Outside, darkness had settled completely. Through my window, Minneapolis glittered with distant lights, a constellation of lives intersecting but separate. Like us now. Why this week? I asked. Why come now? Her eyes drifted to the calendar beside my refrigerator, the dates circled in red. Thanksgiving, 3 days away. Because last year I lost more than money, she answered, and I wanted you to know that before another holiday passed. The truth sat between us, simple and profound. Some thieves steal cash. Others steal trust. The second proves harder to recover. The pie remained uncut on my counter as we talked into the night, not as the family we were, but as the two people we might become. Autumn light filtered through my apartment windows, casting golden patterns across polished hardwood. 2 years had passed since the Thanksgiving that shattered my world. The calendar showed today's circled date, my 36th birthday, with simplicity that belied its significance. I adjusted the framed certificate on my wall announcing my financial literacy program's expansion to 4 Minnesota community colleges. My fingers lingered on the glass, tracing my name's embossed letters. The woman who received this award stood taller than the one who'd driven from her family home last year, apple pie untouched on the counter. The doorbell rang. Sarah arrived first, arms full of wine, and a small wrapped package. The guest of honor shouldn't answer her own door, she scolded, brushing past me with true friendship's comfortable familiarity. Her presence in my life, colleague turned confidant, remained one of the unexpected gifts born from last year's betrayal. The apartment filled gradually. Professor Winters from the community college, neighbors from down the hall, my manager whose quiet support never wavered during those dark investigation weeks. Each person represented a chosen connection, relationships built on actions rather than obligation. When Mom arrived, she waited at the threshold until I waved her in. Her caution spoke volumes about the boundaries we'd established and maintained. She placed a small plant on my side table, not presuming to bring anything demanding permanent space in my home. Happy birthday, Taryn, she said, her voice soft but steady. The therapy she'd committed to showed in her posture, in how she held my gaze without the avoidance that marked our early reunions. Thank you for coming. My words were simple but genuine. We'd learned that honesty doesn't require eloquence. The evening unfolded with quiet laughter and conversations flowing without unspoken resentment's undercurrents. No one here carried hidden agendas. The apartment felt lighter for it. Later, I stood in my kitchen slicing apple pie, my hands moving with steady precision, a contrast to the trembling fingers that once clutched car keys outside my childhood home. Cinnamon and nutmeg scent rose, reclaiming memories I'd once thought poisoned beyond recovery. Need help? Mom appeared beside me, careful to maintain the invisible buffer we both recognized. You could get plates. I sliced through golden crust, creating clean lines rather than jagged breaks. She nodded, reaching for the cabinet where I kept dessert plates. She knew where things belonged in my space now, knowledge earned through cautious visits, not assumed by relations right. The newspaper clipping on my refrigerator caught her eye. Local accountant helps seniors fight fraud. The headline appeared above a photo of me speaking to a community group. The irony didn't escape either of us. My personal wound transformed into protection for others. I saw Marla's email, Mom said, arranging plates in a neat stack. Have you decided whether to respond? I considered the question while placing perfect pie triangles onto waiting plates. My sister's tentative message had arrived yesterday, the first contact in months. Unlike Corbin, whose absence I'd accepted as necessary, Marla's reach toward reconciliation waited in digital limbo. I haven't decided yet. The truth required no embellishment. Some bridges need time. Mom nodded, understanding settling between us. The Christmas card from Dad sat unopened in my desk drawer, another boundary maintained. Sarah called from the living room, summoning us back to the gathering. I carried the pie to my assembled guests, this circle of people who'd earned their places in my life. The conversations waiting held no hidden accusations, no calculated tears. Later, I stood at my window overlooking the Minneapolis skyline. Night had fallen, transforming the glass into a mirror. My reflection stared back, superimposed over city lights. On my bookshelf, the family photo Mom had given me last spring sat among other images, friends, colleagues, students whose lives I'd touched. No single relationship dominated the collection. My phone vibrated. Mom's name appeared on the screen. I paused, breathed, then answered. Hello, Mom. Some foundations, I'd learned, can be rebuilt stone by stone. Others must be abandoned for new ground. The strength lies not in choosing one path universally, but in knowing which path serves truth. The woman in the window glass smiled back at me, her eyes clear with hard-won wisdom.